we'll go ahead and get started. I'll introduce. Well, good evening, everybody. My name is Luke Heidert. On behalf of the School District of Clayton, thank you so much for being here this evening. We are glad you are here. Here in just a minute, we will get started. We'll let everybody kind of filter in and get seated here real quick. Thank you again. Here towards the end, we'll go over some of the comments and the procedures for that this evening, so I will make sure to cover that a little bit later. And as we start here, I'm going to go ahead and turn it over to Board President Amy Rubin.
Thank you, Luke. Sorry, I can't find my glasses, so I can't really see anybody out there, but I'm gonna just start talking anyway. Can you hear me? Now can you hear me? Really? How's this? Can you hear me now? All right. All right, if somebody can't hear me, let me know, okay? I'm going to get started. So welcome, everybody, and thank you for joining us tonight to discuss the Caleres project. My name is Amy Rubin, and I am the board president. And I understand that many of you have concerns and comments, and we are looking forward to answering your questions tonight openly and honestly. Your voice is critical in this process, and we, the board, need your insights, your concerns, and your vision to make the best decision for our community. We are here tonight not to dictate, but to listen. How did we get here tonight? Over the years, we have watched this property go in and out of contract. In fact, when the property has been under contract with private developers, the district has engaged in collaborative conversation and been willing to be cooperative with developers to help bring their vision to fruition. The reason the district took a cooperative approach was because we, just like you and the city, understand the value of the property and the benefit of it being developed into a vibrant space that could benefit the entire community, which includes our students. Unfortunately, none of these prior deals have come to life. When this property became available again, we were already in the process of evaluating current student needs against an existing long-term facility plan. We saw very little downside to entering into a contingent purchase contract, assuming we could come to reasonable terms with Caleres. During our contingency period, we could determine if this project made sense in the context of that long-range plan and gain a better understanding of the development potential. We have not solicited public feedback until now because we were bound by confidentiality provisions, and it's routine that public bodies negotiate real estate transaction in closed session. We were further advised that our vision could be accomplished without any increase in our community's property taxes. So of course, we all like that. That is what we were thinking when we unanimously agreed to explore this opportunity. There were no and are no backdoor deals. No one is getting paid off. We are not negotiating with any developers, and we certainly are not trying to do anything that is not supported by the city and the community. So based on that thought process, we signed an agreement with Caleres, and they agreed to allow us 4 weeks to examine due diligence. And that is where we are today. Due diligence includes community input and city input. This is your city, these are your schools, and if the community does not like our vision, we will take that into serious consideration in moving forward. We have a presentation prepared tonight that will address 4 main themes of concern that have emerged: taxes, messaging, vision, and use. After the presentation, we invite the community to ask questions and engage in dialogue. But before we do that, I would like to share a personal story about what's gone on between the mayor and me for the past month. I have had numerous conversations with Michelle about this deal, and she has stated personal opposition and expressed concerns about the project along the way. But, and this is the critical part, She has also reminded me unequivocally on numerous occasions along the way that first and foremost, we are friends, and that at the end of the day, difference of opinion will not define, impact, or limit our working relationship. This experience with our mayor, working together on something that we might not agree on, has given me hope. I hope that we could come together as a community, agree to disagree from time to time, listen openly to different points of view, and be part of a future where we can have tough conversations, make hard decisions, but still maintain mutual respect for each other. It's this spirit of respectful dialogue and partnership that I invite each of us, to embody tonight. Thank you for your dedication, your insights, and your unwavering commitment to our community. We look forward to listening tonight so that we can forge a path that honors our community's input and make decisions that takes into consideration various opinions and viewpoints. So what I'm going to do now is I'd like the board and our council to introduce themselves. So I'm just going to kind of start at the end so everybody can know who's sitting up here tonight.
I'm Haiket Janice, and I'm the executive assistant to Dr. Patel and the board.
I'm Mohini Mahajan, and I'm the student representative. I'm Mohini Mahajan, and I'm the student representative.
Good evening. My name is Jason Groh, and I'm a member of the Board of Education.
Kim Hurst, I'm the treasurer of the board.
Good evening. My name is John Brazil, and I'm the Chief Financial Officer.
Good evening. I'm Nisha Patel, superintendent.
Good evening. I'm Franz Von Cannell. I'm a partner at Husch Blackwell in Clayton. We've been retained by the district to advise them with respect to this opportunity.
Hello, Ernesto Segura, partner at Husch Blackwell. I also represent the district on this project.
Hi, I'm Stacy Seawalk. I am vice president of the board.
Hi, my name is Jason Wilson, and I'm a member of the board.
Good evening, everyone. I'm Chris Wynn. I'm also on the board.
All right, thank you, everybody. And I am going to turn it over to Dr. Patel to give us her thoughts.
Good evening, everyone. I do want to start off by thanking you, just as Amy did, and for being here tonight. It really does show your dedication to this community and the school district. So I appreciate your presence here today. Before I hand it over to our CFO, John Brazil, who is going to do a short presentation in hopes of answering a lot of the questions that we've been getting in the past few weeks, I would say, I did want to take this time just to share a few words with you. And really the words are about the months preceding and really the build up to tonight. Many of you may know me, many of you may not in the audience, but I want to talk a little bit about my foundation and why I'm so passionate about what I do. And it all starts 8,000 miles away from here in a country called Kenya, where my parents decided we were going to move continents for one reason and one reason only. And that was the power of education. With that foundation and with my moral compass, I had the honor, and I do mean the honor, of being a part of this community 3 years ago. And I had the honor, and I have the honor, to lead an amazing, amazing school district. A school district that values education, a school district that the community, each one of you, supports and has supported throughout the years. And that is a given. We value you and we value education here. In fact, we expect it and it's almost revered. Every day I get to go to work and I have teachers, educators, coaches, you name it, who dedicate their lives for our children. In fact, many times they put our students in front of their own. They sacrifice their home life so that our kids can have the best education. And I think we can actually say everyone in this auditorium tonight, their success has to do with the education that they got, undoubtedly. And I share this with you because for me, it is a true honor to be here. And with that, I have to be at the forefront as a superintendent of this school district of what's coming ahead. I have to understand the educational landscape. I have to continue to make sure our district is thriving. And it is not only thriving locally, but across the state and across the nation. We hear every single day, families move here because of the school district. I hear that all the time. And it is my job as a superintendent to continue to provide these opportunities for our educators, our students, and this community. And we said this, we are partners in all of this. And so when I think about my charge to look at the educational landscape, and I think of education even 15 years ago, when, by the way, was the last time we did a long-term facilities plan, 15 years ago. And I think of how education has changed, even from 4 years ago when we all went through the pandemic. I think of how we can continue to be better and what we need to do to adjust to this new future and the tomorrow. And so with that, a few months ago, a short-time opportunity presented itself in the name of Caleres. And that was an opportunity, in my opinion, a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. And it may or may not be there in the future. And so with that opportunity was my chance to make sure our district continues to thrive. And from the very beginning, our conversation was always about how can this benefit not only the school district, but the community. What can we do to partner with the city and the community and the district to maximize this opportunity from the beginning? And so throughout this process, I have always made my decisions, and in life, I have always made my decisions on hope and not fear. Always. Hope and not fear. And so tonight, I hope, and I know, I believe in this community. And I hope that we, as Amy said, I hope we can come together and have dialogue around this important topic because it does impact all of us. And I truly do believe that this is a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity for all of us in here. And it's not just a transaction of real estate, in my opinion, it's an investment in the future, plain and simple, and where we want to be in a few years. And so I want to thank you for being here. I am going to take now this opportunity to introduce our Chief Financial Officer, John Brazil, who is going to walk us through a quick presentation. And then we will open up the floor for comments and questions.
Is it on? Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you for coming. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you for coming tonight. I have a number of pieces of information to share with you tonight, and hopefully I will answer a number of your questions. As you can see, we're going to be talking about the potential acquisition of the Caleres property. Next slide, please. The property involves the entire Caleres property that exists on Maryland Avenue, both between Gay Avenue and Topton Way, as well as a parking lot to the east of Topton. Caleres offered this property for sale in one transaction. At this point in time, in their previous dealings with developers, they seek to only sell the entire project as one sale. It involves 9.6 acres of land. It involves 3 buildings with approximately 275,000 square feet of interior floor space. Next slide, please. The price that we've negotiated for the property is $20.9 million. It currently is appraised by St. Louis County for tax purposes at $42.5 million. We believe we've negotiated a fair transaction. Next slide, please. This is a comparison of other sales in the area that have occurred in recent times. Ours is at the top at $50 per square foot. And you can see the comparisons to others, running from $65 per square foot up to $141 per square foot. These are per square foot of land. Square footage of land. I've put addresses and locations there that should help clarify those comparisons. And I can come back to that. Next slide, please. The status of the contract is that we're currently in a due diligence phase, and that due diligence period ends Monday, January 22nd. That's this coming Monday.
When did it start?
I'll take the questions at the end. I'll be happy to answer that question.
When did the due diligence period start?
Oh, it was a 60-day period.
It's a 60-day period.
Let me clarify that. It was 60 days from the end of our due diligence. It was 30 days from the end of this purchase sale contract considerations. I'm sorry about that. Next slide, please. There's been a lot of questions around property tax, the impact on taxpayers, and the impact upon tax-supported entities. I'm going to break it into two pieces, that question. This is the question about what happens when a taxable property becomes tax-exempt property. And I'm going to first speak to it in regards to how it affects tax-supported entities. Missouri's property tax system is designed to adjust property tax rates to offset fluctuations in assessed valuation and in order to maintain level tax collections for tax-supported entities. That includes the city and the school district, the county, and all other tax-supported entities. Next slide, please. AV stands for assessed valuation, rate stands for tax rate, and taxes stand for the collections that are made of taxes. So as we look at the entire assessed valuation for the school district times the rate, when we initially set those things, we collect taxes from that. Next slide, please. What is true is that when assessed valuation rises and rate is required to fall by statute, such that tax collections for the taxing entities remain approximately level. Next slide, please. The opposite is also true, that when assessed valuation falls, rates rise under the calculation procedures so that, again, tax collections for the district or the tax-supported entity remain level. So in the case of a property moving from taxable status to tax-exempt status, that has a downward effect on assessed valuation as presented here. In turn, rate can rise slightly, a few fractions of a cent to a few pennies, to adjust so that taxes remain approximately level. In the real world, there's a lot of movement. There's a lot of things that make assessed value go up. There's a number of things that make it go up, and there's a number that make it go down. You have properties that move from commercial to residential. You have properties that do the opposite, residential to commercial. Properties that move from taxable to exempt or exempt to taxable. You have adjustments by the assessor after billing, after rates are determined, that lower assessed values, and you have appeals that people take when they pay their properties under protest, pay their taxes under protest, and later see those lowered. All of those things make assessed value fluctuate. The net effect of all those movements goes into this calculation, not individual properties, but the net effect of all those property movements go into affecting how assessed value moves up or down, and then how rate moves opposite to that, so that taxes for the tax-supported entity remain approximately level. So in the case of the school district or the city, our taxes as a result of this property becoming exempt should remain approximately level. Next slide, please. In this slide, I seek to answer the question, what's the effect upon individual taxpayers? In St. Louis County, we have a multi-rate tax system. Residential properties are in one silo, commercial properties are in a different silo. And the calculations we just talked about with assessed value movements and rate movements opposite to yield level tax collections happen in those silos. This is a commercial property. As it moderates or decreases assessed value in the commercial silo, it does not affect residential property tax rates that are in a different silo. Next slide, please. This is a slide that shows the past 5 years of tax rates for the city and the school district. And you see there's a column for the commercial and another column for residential for each district. These are the silos. There's the commercial silo, the residential silo for each district. And I have shaded where those times when rate has increased over the prior year is due to these fluctuations. And you can see that when one fluctuates upward, when the residential rate fluctuates upward or the commercial rate fluctuates upward, the other silo is not impacted by that. So we have this one, that one, and this one, where the rate went up due to fluctuations of assessed valuation down, and the result of all that is level tax collections for the taxing entity, and commercial adjustments do not affect residential adjustments. I know there's been a lot of consternation about that, but I'd be happy to talk more about it later. But for now, that is, I think, proof enough that how that system works. Next slide, please. After we talk about the tax impact of what happens just by the property being acquired and changing tax status, there's also the conversation about the future. What would happen if the property were redeveloped? And we don't know that yet. But there's many things that could go into that discussion. Here are some of them: how the property is to be used, how dense the development, whether it's commercial or residential, mixed use, retail, office. Many things could affect the future. So it's very hard to speculate on what the future might be. But it's okay to hypothesize. And we're going to do that for a second here. Next slide, please. City of Clayton has a comprehensive plan that guides development within the city. It's well done and has good outlooks for the future, good plans. For this particular area, it proposes lower density mixed use development. And there's already been a little bit of that happen in the form of the Barton, which is adjacent to this property. Next slide, please. Recently, in the last few days, the city put out a hypothesis on what development could look like that on the site, and it's without us knowing or having a fully blown development proposal to review and make projections from, but this is actually a legitimate way to look at the potential revenues from the site. I've highlighted in the tan color there what the city's presentation was, and I think it's a good presentation to begin with. The city proposed or hypothesized that the site could have a assessed valuation of $60 million. And again, I'm showing the effects of the city, the effects of the school district. This proposal of $60 million anticipates a commercial development on the site. But we don't start with assessed value on a project. We start with appraised value. An appraised value that I've seen up here is $187,500,000 that I'm using across the entire example. When something develops in a commercial way and has that appraisal, there is a conversion factor to move from appraised value to assessed value. In the case of commercial property, it's 32%. This appraisal times 32% yields a commercial assessed valuation of $60 million. When we apply a commercial tax rate to that, these are the taxes that would be billed on the property, the taxes that are currently collected, and the growth that might be sustained if a development fit this profile. You can all see the same for the school district and how that would affect, and this matches what the city has presented. The city has also suggested that this site be mixed use. Mixed use is a combination of part commercial and part residential. So I've put a residential column in here, and using that same valuation or same appraisal, it has a different conversion to get to assessed value, and it has a different tax rate. And you can see there's a substantial difference in the bottom line. The Barton is a good example of that. It is a mixed use. It has a small amount of commercial and a lot of residential, and it would fit this profile more. If I could give you a better example, the highest assessed value property in the city of Clayton right now is the the Laclede Center on Forsyth, and it's valued at $30 million. That would be two of those to get to this $60 million assessed valuation. Not inconsequential development. This number here for residential basically equates to 3 of the Bartons. You could squeeze 3 of the Bartons onto the 9 acres. You may or may not be able to squeeze 2 Laclede Centers on there. But I show you both of these because this is the baseline. This is the minimum something would generate at this level of appraisal. This is the maximum if it was all commercial. And mixed use would land somewhere between those two. This gives you a greater sense of the potential for this property. Of course, actual development may vary to the better or to the lesser of these examples. Hypothetical examples are worth discussing when we're looking at all this. Next slide, please. I'd also like to point out that within the comprehensive plan, there is a consideration for potential incentives on this development. Incentives often, whether they're TIF or other forms of tax abatement, often eliminate property taxes. And in that case, city and district budgets may not grow at all when it comes to property taxes for a period of years. Next slide, please. I'd like to show what the school district currently does not receive in taxes as a result of different projects, redevelopment projects typically. We currently lose approximately $530,000 per year to TIF projects, and we lose a little over $2 million a year to other forms of tax abatement, Chapter 100 and Chapter 353 projects. It's projects like these that do impact the collections of tax for the school district, and these will eventually pass. They're typically in place for approximately 20 years, and at some point we will see growth from that. But in the intervening years, tax rates end up being what they are because these funds are not available. Next slide, please. There's been some commentary about our enrollment, and I would like to say that our enrollment typically is going to trade or fluctuate within a range of approximately 2,400 students to 2,600 students. We're currently toward the lower end of that range in some ways as a total. But if you were to look at, say, our high school, 15 years ago, we had 860 some odd students, and we still are approximately that number today. So while one school building may have a little more fluctuation than others, individual buildings can have different results, and currently Merrimack Elementary is actually at capacity. We're looking at ways to improve capacity at that school. We're a destination district, and families seek our district, and as empty nesters decide to sell or move on in life, it's common for families with children to replace them, and that sustains our enrollment. Next slide, please. As Dr. Patel indicated, we believe in long-range facility planning. The last plan we had was in 2008. It was a 20-year plan, and we're nearing the end of that term. Much of what was in that plan has been completed. Some things that were not in the plan have been completed. This school building here was not intended in the plan in 2008, but shortly after that was replaced and rebuilt for the community. Many other things in the plan have been realized, and there are a few that have not. Next slide, please. Here's one that has not, just as an example. There was a proposal that regarding the auditorium at the Clayton High School, which, by the way, is actually smaller than this auditorium. But this is the standard that would be expected from an architectural viewpoint, and you can see we're well below the standard. It will not fit the student body within that particular building. This higher graphic here shows several things that were below standard back in 2008. Next slide, please. In the near term, we look to implement the outcome of a new long-range facility plan. We've been talking about it for some months and have been ready to get that started. We've kind of had to pause that briefly while we've worked on this particular project, but it's ready to go. We've recently completed a complete safety and security audit, and that's giving us some items to work on for our facilities. You can see we're also concerned about development on the Caleres site and how it affects our perimeter securities at that campus, along with the traffic issues that often result from more dense development. Next slide, please. That's all I have tonight, folks. We'll be taking questions and comments soon. I'm going to turn it over to Luke, who's going to be the moderator for that.
All right, we are now ready for our section that we will open it up for comments this evening. And just to give you a little bit so we can make sure we get as many voices as we can get heard tonight, we do have a full house, and we do want to make sure that we hear as many as possible. You should have received a comment card on the way in. If you would like to make a comment, we can also bring those to you if you did not. What we are going to ask is we have two microphones that are down here. Over here next to the microphones is Dr. Poole, Dr. Garganigo, and they will be taking your comment cards once you are completed and finished. And then you will have 3 minutes, approximately 3 minutes. Again, we are doing our best to make sure that we open up the floor for everyone this evening, and we would just ask that you limit it to a comment or a question. If it is a question, we will be answering it from the stage as well. So just to cover that one more time, anyone who is wanting to make a comment this evening, the two microphones down here. If you would like to make a comment and you feel like you wouldn't be able to make it down to the microphones, I am more than happy if you'll raise your hand throughout this. I will be standing over here and making sure that if you raise your hand, I will come up to you and make sure you're able to make a comment as well. So again, one more time, as soon as we open it, we'll leave it till about 3 minutes, a comment or a question, and then we'll get an answer and we'll go on to the next. All right, at that point, if you would like to make a comment, both microphones are available. Please, come on.
Hi, my name is Steve Kissel, 521 West Polo Drive. I don't think I need a microphone. And much like Dr. Patel, I moved not from Kenya, but from the city of St. Louis for education. My son walked to 5th grade at Merrimack School. It's kind of Norman Rockwell-like. And we've been here 37 years. He has his MBA from Purdue, so it all worked out okay. I am truly, truly amazed at, I don't want to use the word arrogance. I guess maybe just the empowerment of the board to think that this is a good idea. The fact that this property is available at $50 a square foot when other property in Clayton costs more means that it is prime for redevelopment and in fact would gain for the city's tax base. That rate, if you're getting it at $50 a square foot, some developer would like it at that square footage because obviously they're paying more to get land in Clayton. And yes, the zoning is what the zoning is, but guess what? Clayton has done special districts for years, and they could do all kinds of things with this property, and the idea of multiple Bartons on it might be a good thing. It would help the city tax base. I also find it remarkable that you're talking about a TIF that's costing you $530,000, and I'm curious what year that TIF was, because if it's about to expire, then you'll get that money back. I don't like TIFs. I wish the school district and the city wouldn't grant TIFs, and I think that would be a great idea in the future to just stop doing TIFs in Clayton, because people like to develop in Clayton without a TIF, not necessary. But I find it amazing. You're worried about your $530,000, but if you take this property, you're giving up $600,000 in the current tax base. So that seems like an odd trade-off. The other funny one was perimeter security. Worried about perimeter security? You have an open campus. I see the kids from the high school going to lunch everywhere. There is no security at Clayton High School. There never has been, and I hope there never is needed to be. But the idea that somehow owning this property helps the perimeter security of Clayton High School is a farce. That is an absolute farce. And then here's my final thoughts, if I make my under 3 minutes. Everybody in this room that lives in Clayton just got a big unvoted on tax increase. We all got to pay $600 extra a year for our trash. We didn't vote on it. We didn't ask for it. We just got it. The city crossed out a $2 million line in their budget and gave us that cost. Well, guess what? The city, if they can do that sort of thing, needs every tax dollar they can get. They obviously are very poor, and people don't understand that $600, if you had $1,000 in, the school district gets like $6,000 from me, the city gets like $1,200. So that $600 was a 50% tax increase on my property taxes. Thank you very much, City of Clayton. I think you all need to look at that, and now we need to keep every piece of commercial property in Clayton commercial to keep the city budget intact. The school district doesn't even, where's the master plan for why you need this property? There's no master plan for this. This is just a nice idea. Thanks a lot. Don't buy it.
Hello, my name's William Buddy. I live at 622 South Hanley. I don't have any skin in the game. I have no children. There's no children that go to Clayton schools in my building. But why does the Clayton School Board feel mandated to be in the real estate development business? That's not your lane. Stay in your lane. You know, your presentation of, I'm a commercial real estate appraiser and I've worked for the board of the assessor's office. It was a simplistic explanation, and the reality is if you take a commercial property off the boards, you are losing tax revenue. The only thing I've seen you guys propose is you need an auditorium, and you want, again, the security issue, which I think is just a ridiculous assessment. So don't be a real estate developer. Stay and get the kids educated. Teach them how to be an accountant, a doctor, a lawyer. But if they want to be a real estate developer, they can learn that too, but they shouldn't learn it from you guys. Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Jim Coman. Based at 8027 Forsyth Boulevard, and I'm a real estate developer, also a former resident here of the city of Clayton. My main reason for being here is because I do understand development. I have it in 41 states across the country, and I applaud the school board for actually being an elected official, having to think through all this, have to go through all this, pro bono, by the way, and think about the future of what this city could look like. I think it's interesting that not many people realize what attracts businesses to this community. Having the best school district in the state of Missouri is one of the main reasons why our buildings are 100% leased. Without having the type of amenities that we have here, Shaw Park, all the beautiful pools that we have, the tennis courts, and everything else that goes to make the city of Clayton really our true. Really, it's better than downtown. This is our real central business district for where everybody wants to be. When I look around and see what you're trying to accomplish there is no future for our families and for our children if we don't plan and think ahead. By being narrow-minded, there's reasons why this isn't developed, people, is because the developers can't afford it. And the reason they can't afford it is because they want subsidies. And if they can't get their subsidies, they're not going to get it developed. And I'm not knocking anybody who wants to go develop the property. We looked at it. We have an interest in it. And if it happens, great. If it doesn't, there's plenty of other things to develop in the city of Clayton. St. Louis County, for example, has 12.5 acres in our central business district. Half of it's sitting vacant and blighted. If anybody's an assessor and appraiser can see that and understand that, that's one of the biggest eyesores we have in Clayton. You look at what Washington University has at the east side of our central business district that sits there vacant and blighted and does nothing to improve. I have not heard the city elected officials stand up, nor the residents stand up and demand that this gets developed and put on the tax rolls. In fact, we choose to go after a piece of property that's been sitting around, quietly marketed, by the way, for about 10 years. And nobody stepped up and bought it. If it was so cheap and so affordable, I guarantee you there's a lot of rich developers around town that would have bought it and developed already. I'm not here to create a fight. I'm not here to create some type of consternation or some type of, distraught situation for everybody here in this room. But what I am saying is that it is important to maintain what the rest of the business leaders in this town look forward to, and that is maintaining the best school district and the best environment that we have in the city of Clayton. Let's not ruin it, and thank you. Kudos to you guys for taking this.
My name is Bill Mathis, and I'm embarrassed to say that I do have skin in the game here. I live at number 18 Hillville Drive. We've lived there for 56 years. My tax has gone up, and I'm not at all, these are not complaints, I'm bragging. My taxes, when we bought the house in 1967, 68, were 5% of what they are now. They've gone up 20 times since I bought it. You can make the comment that my house is probably worth 20 times, but you're not really comparing apples and oranges, and we can talk about that another time. I have a question. What is the significance of the January 22nd date? Amy, can you answer it?
So, January 22nd is when our due diligence period expires.
Okay, so you have between now left another 5 days, after which. Why were we not informed of this before now? And to my knowledge, this meeting was called because there was so much of a ruckus. Otherwise, it might not have been called. Is that correct?
Yeah, so I think that you bring up a really good point, and I think you bring up a valid point. The reason why it was not previously disclosed was there were some confidentiality provisions within our contracts such that we weren't at liberty to disclose. We also agreed with Caleres that certain terms would not be disclosed, and we wanted to honor our agreement with Caleres.
And therefore, I would have to say that if those confidentiality provisions were there, they were put in with your acquiescence that it was not necessary to inform the stakeholders of the city of Clayton of this situation. You put them in there, and that's why they're there. Is that not correct? You put them there so that you wouldn't have to inform us, and now you can try to lean on those not to tell us. And you're a lawyer, Amy. Is that correct or not?
I'm an attorney.
I know you are. And your grandfather was one of the finest ones. We know that. Go ahead.
Is that a question or a comment?
Okay. So I want to know, why is it that we wait? I sort of feel like you're above us now. We've got you where we want you, and now we're going to knock you out unless you let us go ahead with this project. In a comment in Nextdoor, I sort of suggested that somebody bring a lawsuit on some basis which would not be bad faith, that would extend this closing period so that the stakeholders, of which you all are one, could find out what this is all about. And I'm embarrassed for the board that none of that has happened. Next question. In the last, 15 or 20 years, we've had a lot of new office construction in the city of Clayton. My real estate taxes have not gone up. I would have assumed they would, have not gone down. I would assume that we would have gotten some benefit. Now we're getting even hit again as a result of this. The school board is charged with running a school district and not a real estate development plan. And I know that personally, Amy, your family is in real estate development. You may or may not be collaterally involved in this, but that's admittedly and respectfully, that is your motivation. What participation have you had in that aspect?
I can assure you that, well, first of all, yes, my husband is a real estate developer. I can assure you that if he was interested in this site in any form, I would have recused myself from this entire process. So that's the extent of the involvement.
My last comment is the city of Clayton has some excellent, top-notch real estate developers, be they commercial, industrial, residential, whatever. And I think that if Brown Shoe Company cannot sell this for their asking price, maybe they need to lower the asking price. We know the Schnucks property sat for so many years, obviously because the price wasn't offered or the usage was not allowed. Brown Shoe Company should have to do the same thing. That's it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Are we good? All right, fantastic. So yes, I'm going to go ahead and thank the school board and Nisha and the Clayton staff with the school district with exploring this opportunity. I think this is a fantastic opportunity to take a look at a piece of land next to the high school. Does it work? Does it make sense? And I understand that there's a lot of confidentiality. There's a lot of complexities to this. And yes, I really, really do mimic, Steve's, who spoke before me's concerns about like where's the transparency in all of this, and a lot more of that would be great if we could extend that layer of time for a public acquisition of a private property. That would be fantastic to better understand. That being said, I come from a family who's founded in education. I understand that city centers and corporate centers and government centers, and really the city of Clayton really has a fantastic opportunity to really accentuate what the school district is able to accomplish with extended land, with extended opportunities, with extended property. And to be quite honest, and to get a good deal. If this is really truly a good deal, then let's take a look at it. I mean, I've been talking anecdotally with folks, and they're like, "Well, yeah, the high school, it's good, it's fantastic, but could it upgrade? It absolutely could upgrade. Is this a good opportunity to see something great at a price point? Yeah, let's look at this a little bit deeper. I mean, I bought a car during the pandemic on auction, which I thought was a good deal. I didn't exactly explore it with my wife very well, and there was some little bit of tension that happened with that, but I thought I got a good deal. But the point being is that what I'm looking for is a little bit more transparency. I am supportive of the idea of buying the Claris property. I think we would just like to see a little bit more transparency of what the plan looks like, what to utilize it with. So thank you.
Thank you. I don't think so. Hi, Steve.
Hi. Well, my name is Steve Singer, and I've had the honor of serving on the Clayton School Board in the 2000s for 9 years. And then a year ago, I served for a short term, about a year. And one of the things I wanted to say was that I got to know many of you on the board, and those board members are among the most dedicated people whose sole interest is what is best for our students. And I also got, I also got to know Dr. Patel, and I want to also say that she is a first-rate administrator, deeply committed to our school district, and I thank her every day for doing what she does. Well, at first I was supportive of this transaction, but frankly, after listening to a number of people who care deeply about the district, I feel that the process has been so tainted that it really doesn't matter anymore if the proposal is a good one or a bad one. Clayton School District has a tried and true process for making big decisions. First, we have a public and transparent board review of financial condition of the district and unmet educational needs. Then we publicly and transparently develop solutions. Finally, we engage the public to seek their input and understanding. This process has worked over and over again. I was on the board in 2008 and 2009. In the worst recession in 70 years, we used this process to pass close to a $100 million bond issue, and we rebuilt this building, as well as did substantial facilities upgrades to all of our other buildings. The same process was used in 2002 and then in the most recent operating levy. So it is with great disappointment I see that the district has decided not to use this process. Instead, they have proposed, we just learned tonight, spending $20 million and then going to the community and trying to figure out what we're going to do with the land. This proposal has even gotten stranger after the explosion of public comments, with the district proposing to act as a commercial real estate developer. Nothing in our vision or mission statement calls for the district to get involved in commercial real estate development. Community trust is a commodity that the Clayton school boards have worked hard for over 100 years. I am deeply concerned that this trust will be broken if the board moves forward with this deal. Therefore, I ask that the board vote to cancel this deal, to not move forward. If this deal truly makes sense, then it needs to be able to be part of an open and transparent process. If it can't stand this scrutiny, then it shouldn't go forward. Thank you very much.
Hi, my name is John McCarthy. I live at 81 Arundel. I have two children who went through Clayton schools from K through 12. One's now in college and one is graduated and even has a job, which is great. First, I'd like to thank the board for holding this meeting and for serving. I know that serving on the Clayton School Board is incredibly time-consuming. You make the best decisions you can and then you just get criticized for it. So thank you for doing this. I do worry, however, that the sense of urgency that surrounds this acquisition has led to perhaps not a thorough examination of the financial impact. Not only is there the initial cost of some $20 million in buying it, there is the removal of a tax-paying property from the tax rolls, and it's just a simple mathematical fact that if you remove something from the tax rolls that's paying $1 million a year in tax, either your revenue goes down $1 million or taxes on the rest of the community have to go up $1 million. You can't balance it any other way. Secondly, there's the hypothetical valuation that we were shown when the property was worth $187 million. Well, I find it rather optimistic to think that a property that can be acquired for $21 million will be transformed into a $187 million property. And if this were really the case, I would think that the various commercial developers who have thought about buying it in the past would have snapped it up. So I worry that the finance of this haven't been thoroughly vetted and thought out, and I think that the process of imposing this short deadline, and I understand that for confidentiality reasons there had to be a time when you explored it, but I think we should all take a breather and take longer to work through the actual numbers and see what the likely costs of developing this will be. Thank you.
Yeah, hello. My name's Jesse Adams. I was president of the class of 2003, and I'm sort of an interloper here. I'm in New York most of the year, but I'm staying with my mother at 122 Crandon at the moment. I'm the author of a Substack called The Ivy Exile that's about corruption in higher education primarily, so I'm pretty familiar with the topic we're dancing around here. In a previous life, I was in academic PR. I've been one of you sitting up there, and I have to say, I have never seen something handled so unprofessionally. That this is 5 days before the end of due diligence we're finally gathering here. This should have been months ago. I mean, the people should have been part of this process from the beginning. And so what this really reminds me of is the process around Better Together. It feels like you're trying to get us in the hole because there's something you don't want to tell us. My feeling is that we're approaching a demographic cliff, which is a big issue in all of higher education. I mean, look at Webster, look at Lindenwood, look at Fontbonne. There just aren't as many children anymore, and certainly with property values being what they are in Clayton, it's harder and harder for young families to come in. So it looks to me like you're trying to get us in a hole so you can force whatever this inclusive empowerment campus is on us, and we won't have any recourse at that point. So is that a merger with another district? Is it expanding voluntary transfer? Where are the students coming from in the next 10, 15, 20 years is my question. So thank you, and be aware that pushing this through, as you definitely seem poised to do, there doesn't seem to be any evidence that you're changing your mind, is going to poison the relationship with a community for decades to come.
Hi, Josh Lorenz. I want to echo everybody's comments and thank you guys for serving on the board. It means a lot. Thank you, Nisha, for loving our kids. We've got 2 boys in the district, my wife Whitney and I. We could have lived anywhere in the world. I grew up in St. Louis, went to Clayton High School 01, Grow Greyhounds, and we chose to move back to Clayton about 3 years ago. So we couldn't be more invested. We're in here for the long term. We care about our education deeply and want to see you guys succeed. Appreciate your service. And I think if I had to boil down our concerns, if we could make the school better, make the education better, that's better for everybody. My primary concern is that, and I would say that I owe a lot to Clayton High School. Left here, went to college, and was able to convince a private equity company to give me a lot of money to drill oil and gas wells. And that's something I think I owe my education to being here. And when we did deals, we had things that fit our thesis and fit our strategy, and we had deals that were opportunistic. We found a piece of land. Let's see how we can make it work, or does it actually fit the strategy? And in all the communication I've read, it feels like this is the latter, where you found the piece of land, now what do we do with it? And every deal that I did like that usually didn't end up well. When we did a good deal, we had a strategy and we said, hey, this is what we're gonna go do. And so I've heard things about the long-range plan, and I just kind of wonder, it doesn't appear that there's been a lot of planning in this particular type of project. And when I look at the budget from 23-24 that's on the board's website, it says no construction planned. So it seems obvious to me that y'all would like to have this property, but you don't exactly know what to do with it. And I would just encourage you to think through exactly how it fits. And that's the main issue. The other piece was I looked at the satellite imagery, and the Clayton High School buildings are about 4 acres. If you just take the actual buildings themselves, the Claris property being 9.5 acres, that just seems like a huge undertaking for something to be opportunistic. So I would just encourage you guys to think through that and think through how it's going to fit in the long-range plan and continue to listen to the community. Appreciate your service and thanks for your time.
Hi, I'm Betsy Malin Smith. I live on Alexander Drive, and I have 3 kids in the district. And I just want to say that I thank all of you guys for your service. I know many of you personally, and I know how committed you are to the district and to our kids. I'm also involved to some degree with the city and the strategic plan, and so I have some level of exposure to that. I think that it's really interesting to hear everyone's perspective, and I appreciate everyone who has taken time to comment. I think that there is something to the transparency and the haste with which this is happening. However, everyone in this room lives in Clayton for the school district. The city is what it is because of our schools, and the minute we get complacent and rest on our laurels as a district and don't serve as a leader in the region, that's when things change for all of us. So I want to say thank you for your work on this, for taking the heat from the community, and I'm really hopeful about the vision for the district and for this development in particular. Thanks.
Hi, I'm Steve Hundley, and I live on Gay Avenue. I do want to thank especially Amy and Nisha for taking the time to personally respond to me, and I remain an opponent of what you're doing, but I do appreciate the virtue of respect, so thank you for that. But Superintendent Patel said something in the opening remarks, that the Solaris project is a return on investment in the future. So to determine return on investment, we have some high-level thinking about a empowerment campus, about safety, about an auditorium and some other consolidation of facilities. But what we don't have is a strategic plan. That was evidenced when John showed the 3 pieces of property, but he didn't show a rendition of what you are going to do with those, because you probably don't have anything like that right now. But a lot of my questions that I asked you about were about due diligence. You answered 1 of about 10 I asked, and that is, what is the property going to cost? I thank you for that, but my second question is, what's the total cost of developing the property? There's all kinds of infrastructure under that property that's going to have to be ripped out, replaced, renovated, redeveloped. I suspect your total cost of ownership is an order of magnitude more than $21 million. Once we get that question answered, the next question we need to answer is, does the financial return on this project exceed the cost of financing? Can we afford it? To do that, you have to know your current course and speed of costs before and after the project. Is there a savings that you can use to pay off the financing? And then the next set of questions, and I'm not going through all of them, is the return on investment for the alternative use as a gateway project for the city of Clayton higher than the return on investment for the school district? So it all gets down to, what is the highest and best use of this property? And is there a situation where a developer could come in, achieve both the city and the school's objectives, and put an auditorium or whatever else you need on that property? I don't think it takes 9 acres for an auditorium. So I don't think you're able to answer those questions. And those are questions you need to know to complete due diligence. And I've done a lot of due diligence in my life. You haven't done it. It needs to be done. You can't get it done by Monday. And you should probably withdraw from the project, but you should at least suspend it, find a partner, and do this the right way, because the course you're on, you're not doing any due diligence. And frankly, in all due respect, and I do mean it respectfully, that's not acceptable. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Rachel Eidelman, and I'm a retired attorney. I've lived in Clayton Davis Place for 48 years. My husband actually went all the way through the Clayton schools. My children did, and my grandchildren are there now. I am going to read from the website the duties of the Board of Education. The board's chief responsibility is to evaluate and hire the superintendent of schools. They did that. Additionally, the board adopts policies and direct procedures for governance of the district with responsibility for implementing board policy and day-to-day operations of the district delegated to the superintendent. It's also responsible for adopting an annual budget to enable the district to carry out its educational programs. Nowhere does it give permission to purchase real estate and commit millions of taxpayer dollars without taxpayer knowledge or consent. In my book, that's the very definition of malfeasance. By buying property through the school district, you have robbed Clayton taxpayers of Caleres property taxes, which could add up to millions of dollars. There is no legal right that I can see to do that. Also, for the board to be negotiating with property developers is completely outside the board's legal duties. I have been informed that until last night, this secret plan was never run by the finance committee that you have for the board. This entire transaction is a major breach of the board's fiduciary duties to the taxpayers to whom you are accountable. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Melissa Pilat, and I have 2 children in the district. I live on San Benita, and from 2014 to 2017, I was on the district's long-term financial planning committee, the facilities subcommittee. I think they put me on there as their regular person because if they could explain the Hancock Amendment to me, they could explain it to anyone. I'm not entirely sure they can explain it to anyone. Thank you, John, for trying tonight. But what I appreciate about this project is that if the district hadn't taken it seriously, if you had not taken this opportunity to look at this once-in-a-lifetime opportunity, I would have found that negligent. This is a brilliant piece of property adjacent to our campus. Thank you for the person who gave the acreage of the buildings. That was my main question out to John. John Burroughs School has about 50 acres for their beautiful campus. MICDS has almost 100. When we look at how we are competitively, technologically, innovatively, I don't see where we are putting innovation in the forefront of our children's education. I can't say that that's your plan for this site. Empowerment Center does not. That's a different use of a different word for a different type of institution. I do think that there are many people with ideas in the community for opportunities for this to be a shared development option. I've heard people comment about the district's job not being in real estate management, but one of the biggest things that we had to do on the long-term financial planning committee was look at ways that the district could generate revenue. That is also not the district's responsibility. The fact that our board was tasked with filling holes and gaps because, I mean, you look at the bucket that's coming out of your property tax bill and you look at what the district does and we can't even get our microphones to work half the time, there's gaps. There are gaps in our district that need to be met. So I commend you for, I presume, again, looking at this property with those ideals in mind. The last sort of part that I wanted to bring in is that I've been here for 17 years. I've lived in Clayton for 17 years, and I've not once seen a development that's been promised really pay out on what they said we were going to get from it. And I also haven't once seen something pulled from the tax rolls that suddenly caused a disaster for all of us. I think there's a lot of legs to this project. I think there's a lot more that could be done to build a more comprehensive plan. But again, I would like to say that if you had not engaged in this process at all, I would have wondered where your priorities were. Thank you for engaging in it.
Hi, I'm Becky Goldstein. I live on Mohawk. My 3 brothers and I went through the Clayton school system. My 2 daughters went through the Clayton school system. So I'm very proud of the school system and happy to be here. And I also want to echo everybody else's comments about your dedication. I can't imagine the time and the energy that you all put into it, so thank you. When I first heard about this project, my immediate reaction was negative, but I've also tried to keep an open mind and, look at the arguments on both sides. And I really came here tonight, trying to educate myself and learn more. What it comes down to for me, though, is that I can't make a decision. I can't make a decision about whether or not I support this without knowing what the $20 million is going to go for, what's going to happen to the property. I mean, if you know what you plan to do with it and you're not telling us, then that doesn't help me. If you don't know what you're going to do, then I just can't understand, spending $20 million, almost 21, for a piece of property that we don't know what we're going to do with, that we don't know if it's going to be worth that. So I guess I would just encourage you. I don't know if anybody can answer that question for me tonight. If you can, that would be great. Can you?
I'm happy to speak on behalf of myself. I'm not going to speak for the rest of the board. My vision for the property would be to put a significant portion of it back on the tax roll and see it developed into some vibrant type of space that the community can use. Again, I'm not speaking for the board, but in order for me to support the project, it needs to be measured and in a limited way, which for me is, I think, as a lot of you have expressed, putting a large portion of it back on the tax roll so that it is developed, not by us, but by somebody that knows what they're doing. I don't know if so that is my vision for it. I can't speak for the rest of the board.
Okay.
Go ahead.
Well, thank you. I mean, I guess then my follow-up question to that is, has the board ever done something like this before? Do you have the expertise to basically flip a property? I don't mean to be pejorative, but
No, first of all, we don't. And Caleres also has a lease, so they're going to be living there for 15 months. So there is a 15-month window when, we would have time to engage the community, and they have no immediate plans to vacate the premises. They're going to lease the space back.
I mean, is there expertise on the board that, to sort of engage in this endeavor? Is that something that, the board tasks itself with, is to buy this property and then sort of, I don't know, develop it or engage in some development?
Well, I mean, I'm an attorney, but we've hired Hush to help advise us through that process. And we also had a development consultant that was working with us. He's out of town right now, but he was kind enough to work with us, with the board and the district, and help answer development-related questions.
Could you tell us who that was?
Yeah, it was Joe Downs. He was with Opus.
Okay. I mean, hearing that, I have to say that, this is not what I elected, the school board members for, was to buy real estate and sell it. And so, I mean, I just, based on that and based on other information, I just don't think that this is something that I support. But I really thank you for, for listening to us and having this forum, and I intend to, go back and listen more and still try to keep an open mind. So thank you.
Thank you.
Hello, my name's Jeff Tegetoff. I live at 132 North Brentwood in Clayton. I'm also the operating partner for Clayco CRG and the lead developer that pursued this on behalf of CRG. Bob Clark couldn't be here tonight. He's recovering from a pretty major surgery. But I think I talked to him right before I walked in, and he said, the one thing I think that people need to understand is real estate development is very, very complicated and very, very risky. He said that in the St. Louis Business Journal article that just posted. And I thought it would be good. I'm glad we're sharing numbers and everybody's perspective on values. I'm glad you started like that. But we wanted to just share what we did. We had this under contract for $40 million a little over 2 years ago. And we thought it was worth every single penny of that, if not more. Over $100 a square foot, we thought. We also locked it up for a year, and we started due diligence. We spent over $1 million of due diligence, and we already had $2 million of due diligence that Clayco had done 10 years prior when it was still Brown Shoe, when they wanted to build a new campus. So $3 million worth of due diligence of soft costs. We hired third-party traffic engineers. We hired civil engineers. We consulted with MSD. We found out there's a 72-inch unrecorded sewer line, unrecorded easement. There's a 72-inch sewer line that runs through the middle of the property that buildings are built on. That would cost $1.5 million to move. It has to be moved. We found out that all the traffic is at capacity at pretty much every major intersection due to the recent development over the last 5 years, and that we would spend $10+ million in offsite improvements, including potentially widening Maryland, which I don't know if anybody's familiar. There's power lines that run down the one side, and there's a non-conforming use on the other side with Enterprise. It's going to be really hard. Topton Way needed to add a lane there for turn. Gay needed to add a lane. All told, we felt like the magnitude of our improvement, and to demo that building that exists there is around $4 million because of environmental concerns with asbestos and some other things. All told, call it $15 to $20 million before you even start building. We went back to Caleres and said, we don't think it's worth 30, we don't think it's worth 25, we're just gonna drop. There isn't a number low enough right now. We don't know enough. And as somebody mentioned, there was also a lot of uncertainty still with the city. We met with the city a number of times. And as a responsible real estate developer, we listened to what they said. And what they kept coming back to us with is, we have a master plan, we're working on a new plan. We just want to make sure whatever happens here fits into a master plan. You're going to be part of a community now. The school district is part of Clayton, not the other way around. And for everybody to understand how expensive this is to develop, we also met with every major real estate developer that pursued it. We met with Steinberg Group, we met with Cordish, we met with Peer Property Group. We're in the process, myself as the lead, of doing a $500 million mixed-use development in Chesterfield at Wild Horse Village, a $350 million development in St. Charles, mixed-use development. Just here in St. Louis, we have billions of dollars of development. This is what we do. Cordish, probably one of the most talented developers in the country at doing this, looked at this. Not one of us developers, Steinberg, Cordish, Clayco CRG, Peer Property Group, had a number over 20 million. It's not worth $20 million as it sits today. So for you to get up and say, look at the value we're getting at $50 a square foot, proves your unsophistication as real estate developers, and proves that this is a very, very risky business. One other comment. We're really fortunate. St. Louis does have some incredible developers, and one of the best ones was here tonight, Mr. Coleman. I don't know if he's still here. I disagree with Jim on one thing. I do believe that the school district's important, but I think this site's about vibrancy. I think this site is about fitting into the future plan of Clayton as much as more so than it is just about the school district. So, I would just encourage everybody to understand better. It's not about just buying it for $20 million. It's what does it cost to start developing this? How does it fit into a major plan? And real estate development is a very, very hard, challenging game that we found out, significantly lowers the value of this property. And not one professional real estate developer was willing to offer in the last 6 months. Trust me, they called us before they called you. And they called Steinberg, and they called Cordish, and they called everybody before you. And not one of us was anywhere near $20 million. So.
Interesting comments. My name is Ben Uchatel. I am the former mayor of Clayton, and I'm speaking for not only myself, but for the former mayors Linda Goldstein, Hugh Scott, Harold Sanger. I might also mention that my wife was a member of the school board for many years, was the president of the school board. Our 3 children went there. So as the saying goes, we have skin in the game. First, a shout out to Dr. Patel and a shout out to you all for the great job you have been doing on educating our children. That's what it's all about. That's your mission. That's what you should concentrate on. So having said that, let's all have a round of applause for them on that score. But having said that, myself and the former mayors all feel you've made a major mistake in going ahead with this, entering into this contract. And for all the reasons I've said in letters to you and the like, and that have been mentioned tonight, so I won't go over them again. They've been well said. But I do want to comment on the last one, and that is, well, we'll buy this property, and we'll use an acre or 2 acres or whatever, once we figure it out, which hasn't been disclosed or discussed or really contemplated, and we'll flip it or change it to somebody else. As we just heard from the prior speaker, that's a big, big mistake for a school board whose job and mission is to concentrate on educating our students to get involved as even trying to sell the property. You may find that the expense, the controversy, the length of doing that will occupy your minds when you need to be occupied by educating and leading our children. So we urge you, and I use the word we, not only the former mayors, but to reconsider. If you have the opportunity, and apparently you have your due diligence period ending in a few days, to reconsider and to terminate this contract. That's for the good of the school district and for the good of the community. Finally, I would just ask, as an interest, because you're interested in this public forum, for a show of hands of those people who think we should end this contract.
We should end the contract or how?
End the contract. That we should terminate the contract. Well, you see, we're a pretty good representative of the city of Clayton. Thank you very much.
Hello, my name is Susie Auger, and I'm serving in my 2nd year of the co-president of Clayton High School. And I'm here tonight to tell you how happy I was when I saw the announcement about the plan. And I think the very best part of the plan is the part that everyone who's voiced a problem with it had a problem with, but it's that you haven't come here and said, we're going to do this, this, and this, because there are students here tonight. There's a whole community that has great ideas about how we need to use that space. And you as a board have done a great job of listening, holding these community, I'm not talking about tonight, but for other objectives in the past, listening to the community and getting the feedback and making the plan. So we really look forward to being part of the process. I'm acutely, my involvement in the school, I'm acutely aware of the needs and the shortcomings when we compare it. We're one of the families that moved to Clayton, actually from Jakarta, Indonesia. We rented an overpriced house in Whiteham Forest, sight unseen, for 1-year commitment, and we were lucky enough to find a house in Cleverock Park 6 months later. So we lost the 6 month, bought the house, and we did it for the schools, absolutely. There were only 3 houses available to rent, at that time. And, the housing market is definitely related to the school district. And I know that for those of you that are expressing opposition tonight, the age of the opposition is I know that it's very hard to imagine how much school has changed. It's changed since, I feel young here tonight, but it's changed so much since I was in school, and it's so rapidly changing. And it's not just about having space to put seats in seats. And when you're looking at the gentleman who mentioned his son goes to Purdue, I think it's maybe been a few years ago, my son is there, but in a more competitive program in engineering, he probably wouldn't have gotten in. Those kids are starting in their schools at a very young age in very competitive robotics. At Clayton High School, they only have space, like they can do it in the lunchroom and then put their stuff away like it's Tinker Toys at the end of the day. And there are a lot of STEM-related programs and other things that our kids need. It's not just having a chalkboard and a textbook. It's changed a lot, and there are a lot of very important uses for the space. So I thank you, for considering all the great uses, and because our competition really is. Thank you for the one who mentioned with John Burroughs and MICDS, those campuses and all that they have to offer. You won't see the sons and daughters of the WashU professors and the surgeons from the hospitals nearby and the law firms choosing Clayton High Schools if we just want to get by, with getting by. And I'll close with saying, for the one who mocked the security threat and compared Clayton kids going out to lunch with the burden of making sure that there is not an ambush in our school, because a shooting occurs every single day in this country. I'm really disappointed to see so many people laughing about that. And I'm just also, last thing I promise, is just, I want to invest in our youth. I don't want to invest in corporate and, Centene was going to build a community center. That fell through. Like, why not invest in our youth instead of just taking we might be able to get more money from corporate, which is just a big maybe. Thank you.
I'm going to say a number of things which I hadn't intended to say when I first got in line. I definitely want to thank you folks for what you do. That I was intending to say, and that I mean from the bottom of my heart. We had 3 of our children go through the Clayton schools. When we relocated here some 20 years ago, we went to Clayton because of the quality of the school system. So my heart is very much in the schools. And yes, there is a but coming. I was stunned when I found out that the city was not just directly, overtly, clearly overseeing anything like this, that the school board would kind of run off. And I'm sorry, that's how I feel, that you ran off in this direction. I know, I have to believe that your hearts were in this, that you want to do the right thing. What I want to focus on some is actually building in education. Building in the literal sense, construction stuff. As somebody who until recent retirement, for the better part of 50 years involved in higher education including being provost at St. Louis University when we were doing a lot of building, everybody in America puts too high a premium on what isn't the real thing about education. The real thing about education, the thing that makes the Clayton schools wonderful, are the teachers and the students. And our students, our children who are students, amazing. The number of incredible teachers who are here to help them along in what are now all excellent professional lives. I had no idea that the gentleman who works for Clayco was going to be here and say what he said. But I will also note that as at St. Louis University, as we did a variety of building projects that I was very directly involved with, there was never, and I'm sure there will never be, a building project where there weren't serious issues that had to be dealt with, where whatever dollars were budgeted to begin with weren't escalated by at least a third. The SLU Arena, as you may or may not know, sits on top of water that runs underneath that property. That was a lot of fun to engineer around. Please focus on the students, the teachers, those interactions. Research universities need laboratories. They don't need a lot of the frills that we provide to students. They don't need better climbing walls. What the students here need, in my belief, being professionally in education for, as I said, the better part of 50 years, is the contact with the faculty, as much in the way of facilities as they need, but the facilities are not the be-all and end-all.
Good evening. My name is Chris Holmes. I'm not a Clayton resident. I am a teacher employed by the district. My expertise is not in real estate development, school district governance, or taxation. My expertise is in cognition, adolescent development, and how a sense of self impacts achievement and life satisfaction. I came to the Clayton School District because I consider this community, its citizens, its board members, and its teachers to be perfectly pragmatic and progressive. I believe tonight's an excellent example of that, pragmatic and progressive. When I learned of this plan we're commenting on tonight, I became excited and hopeful about the possibility of possibility. Whether we are able to move forward or need to slow down, I don't know. I just hope we can remember what built this district, envisioning possibility. Our excellence is dependent on what if, and it exists because we proactively seek to find out. I think facilities do matter. Education is changing, and we need to have the facilities to change with it.
Hi, my name is Alex Cohen. I'm a Clayton resident and also a, Thank you. And also a senior at Clayton High School. I'm also a managing editor for The Globe, the Clayton High School newspaper. So despite the fact that I don't know very much about real estate at all, as my dad was trying to tell me about the other day, I do know a little bit about how the school district works from all my years of research. I grew up in the Clayton schools. I've been in Clayton schools since kindergarten, and I've come to expect that the school district knows what's best for me. They've kind of raised me along with my parents, and I've had many, many wonderful teachers and administrators, some of whom are here tonight, and I'm sure the board and Dr. Patel and previous superintendents have been supervising it all. But also, as a journalist and as a student, I find it important to prioritize transparency. There are a lot of my classmates here. Especially if you look towards the back, there are a lot of high schoolers who are here tonight who are interested in what happens to our school and what happens in our community. And I think It's just incredibly important for the board to recognize that regardless of what decision you make, it's important to prioritize the input of young people and what we want. Last year for the Globe, me and a friend who's actually sitting up in the back wrote a story about the APA taking over St. Louis County Animal Care and Control's animal shelter. And we did a lot of research with a little help from a Post-Dispatch reporter, and we found that the county had put out their request for proposals with only a 5-day period of public comment, kind of similar to this situation. They didn't really allow a lot of time for the community to have input. And the shelter was and did end up being taken over by the APA, but hardly any other shelters or operating procedures were considered. And while the welfare of the animals there has improved slightly, it hasn't improved significantly, as we found in our reporting. While that might seem like a tangent, what I'm trying to say is it's really important to have dialogue with the community and to have a sufficient amount of time for people to give comment on especially big decisions like $20 million could make a lot of impact in our schools. And I think it's incredibly important to have a lengthy period for public comment and input. Thank you.
My name is Steve Beecham. I am a teacher at the high school. I teach our computer science and engineering program at the high school, as well as I'm our head coach for our robotics program. And Susie mentioned that earlier. But I'm part of a department called Career and Technical Education. And the landscape for education is changing dramatically. And the programs, what I'll describe as 21st century programs, they're requiring much more than they ever have. Our Catalyst program, for example, works with, connects our students to industry, connects them with business people, and it requires a unique space. So we rent a building in Brentwood to house that program. That program is in collaboration with Ladue, it's in collaboration with Brentwood, and also with U-City. And so we're paying rent for that. And so a building like this can bring it home. You know, bring this home, and then we're collecting rent from other districts to house this program. My program, the robotics program, we have an amazing program. We have over 65 kids on this program, and we have an amazing team. But we have to do it in a very confined space. So as Susie mentioned, we're hauling literally 15-foot carpets down the hallway every day. We're building all this, like, it's crazy the amount of stuff we have to move around each and every day. The reality is that, we're providing these real-world experiences, these authentic experiences for students, and this new opportunity is amazing, and it would give us the space to be able to do some of these amazing things. The field we need is 30 feet by 60 feet. That's huge. We do not have a place in the building. What we are doing right now is the equivalent of taking a basketball team, pulling a portable basketball goal into a classroom with a ceiling that's not high enough and having practice. That's what we're doing. So I'm very appreciative. I'm very excited about this opportunity. I think it opens up some great opportunities, not just for robotics and then also our Catalyst program, but we have some really amazing programs coming down the line where we're going to connect our geometry students. It's called Geometry and Construction. It's going to give students a hands-on approach to geometry, make meaning out of that learning. We're doing another program called AMPed, where we connect our CTE program and our algebra program together. And again, they need space. They need space to be able to do these amazing things. I love that it's right there next to us. Again, bringing some of our programs home, making it very accessible to our students. I think we can do some pretty amazing things with this property. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Peter Smith, and my wife and I live on Brighton Way in Clayton. My genealogically obsessed brother says that our relatives have been here since the 1830s, and we've sent a lot of people through the Clayton schools, including 2 of my kids and my stepdaughter. And we've also sent a lot of kids in our family primarily to what is now MICDS, back when it was Marion Student Country Day. And I would say that I thought you had to go to a Mary I or a Country Day back when my children were young. in order to be get into a good college and be successful. And after spending, and they're 39 and 41, so it goes back, but after spending $150,000 to get them through 3rd and 5th grade, I said, this is crazy. Let's send them to the Clayton schools. And not only did they have a wonderful educational experience, they each got into all 6 schools to which they applied, which I think is a credit to the teachers and the staff and the administration and the board of Clayton School District. And they've thrived. And ever since that, there's one of the weekly papers that might be Town and Style. Every year they publish a list of where the sort of Central Corridor kids graduated and where they went to college. And every year I look and see whether I made a mistake on not spending, another several $100,000 to send my kids to MICDS, or if it was okay to send them to Clayton. There's not a nickel's worth of difference in where the kids end up going to school between Burroughs, MICDS, Priory, and the Clayton schools, and that's a tremendous credit to the Clayton School District. So I don't think you need to keep up with the Joneses, and you can't anyway. There's so many hundreds of millions of dollars donated to MICDS and Burroughs. We could never in Clayton come up with the resources to even approximate those kind of facilities. And I think the passion speakers who talked about the education and the teachers at Clayton, they're right on the money. You could put up a tent and pump some hot and cold air in there depending on the season, and if you have the dedicated, passionate teachers that we have, our kids will be fine. So I think you've heard tonight that the community's not behind this. The vision does not currently exist for what would be done with this campus or with this potential enlargement of the campus. And if we've got $20 million to spend on the raw land and then the development costs on top of that, I think we could rent a lot of space for robots. And I also am not an expert on pretty much anything that the CFO presented in terms of but I'm an expert on the parking lot at the center of Clayton. And timing was bad, built that beautiful upper parking lot at the center of Clayton right before the pandemic. I think the maximum I've ever seen is about 3 cars up there. So if we need space contiguous to the school to expand, I think that's an excellent place to look. Thank you.
Hello, my name's Dave Butler. My wife and I and our family moved here 25 years ago. My wife and I both had worked for DuPont. We used to move around the country. We first met in Wilmington, Delaware, then we moved to Cupertino, California, then we moved to Atlanta, then we moved here. And we were on this 5-year cycle. We've been here 25 years, and I have to admit, we moved here. I was supposed to go to Kansas City, but we picked Clayton because of schools, but also because of Clayton and the walkability and the vibrancy of the town itself. And so our son was a product of the school district. We came in 3rd grade, graduated in high school in 2008. I would say he was nothing remarkable. A bright kid. He was, and my wife's going to shoot me, but the point I'm making is that the education process worked. It was in the old Y-down. The census is way up. And at the end of the day, right now, he is a prominent design engineer for Oracle on the hardware side, designing circuitry for the next generation of high-performance servers. So again, a testament to all of you, because I can also respect as volunteers, because over the years I've volunteered in the neighborhood. I'm currently in a condo. I'm at 710 South Hanley Road. I used to be in Claverick Park, where I was the trustee. Now I'm the treasurer on our board, so I realize all the time you all put into this. But I just want to highlight a couple points. The letter my wife and I both wrote, started with 3 different points: lack of transparency and communication, financial responsibility, and the last one is the solution looking for the problem. I'm going to start off on this lack of transparency, and I know there's a lot of discussion that because of its the Missouri Conduct of Business, Chapter 610. It gives you the right to have closed-door sessions for certain items, one of which is real estate transactions. That's very understandable, and it can be closed. But what's interesting is, if you go into this section, 610-022, closed meetings, procedure, and limitation, it says, except as set forth in subsection 2 of this section, no meeting or vote may be closed without an affirmative public vote of the majority of the quorum of the public governmental body. A vote of each member needs to be registered, and then it goes on to say that if there is going to be a closed-door session, it needs to be published at least 24 hours in advance for the public to know of this. Now, having known other individuals, I didn't know Steve Sanger personally, but I know other people that have served on the Clayton Board of Education or the Special Education Board or other boards like this, and they've all said that, admittedly, on the closed-door sessions, you might need a code word like real estate or something. But having gone through the website and the site where all the documents, first of all, your minutes are minimal. As evidenced by the fact that your secretary is not up here because he had to recuse himself once when you started coming out with these notices, the secretary on the Board of Education has a potential conflict of interest because he works for the law firm that's representing the seller, at least as I read it from the Post-Dispatch. And so what's concerning is we've got a lack of minutes. We don't follow the Missouri law. I even took time to fill out a Missouri Sunshine request, and I received a response, a professional response back from Hush Blackwell saying that there's no open items, but that's disconcerting because there should have been some open items based on the Missouri statutes around handling open and closed sessions. And now we're learning we've got a board member who's recused himself, but because there's no documentation, we see no evidence that he recused himself from earlier conversations, earlier discussions, earlier votes, because we see none of these. I'm just saying from a lack of transparency, and I applaud the student that stood up here and said, because we live in an age where transparency matters. And if you get into finances, I think it's already been prosecuted very well. The Clayco folks, I serve as the treasurer in our building. We had to go through a major safety upgrade. When you get into the details of things, there's lots of complexity, there's lots of costs that you can't think about. But real estate speculation, and there's a winner's curse. The price is the price, it's the winner's curse. So when you get it, even if you think it's a discount, I teach as an adjunct in the business school, there's something called a winner's curse. So the price is whatever you pay for it, but you may have paid too much. And so we heard from the Clayco gentleman that you may have paid too much. But where I'm going back with this is that I think the best thing we can do, instead of just taking this opportunity that fell into your lap, because it does feel like a solution looking for a problem, I think in the best interest and with the lack of transparency, because I think Steve Sanger said it the right way, you've kind of changed the dynamic of how the board's worked in the past. I think the best thing is, since you've got an out between now and the 22nd, is step out of it. And based on what we heard, the property's not going anywhere. Let's do it above board, go through the process, go through the math, and then you can buy it at the right price. Thank you.
My name is Victor Frankel. I was on the school board some time ago. My wife went to Clayton. My two sons went to Clayton. My grandchildren are going to Clayton. I'm concerned that as I look around here, everybody has white hair. I don't see the children, the parents of the kids who are in school now making any decisions or even talking to you about it. I think that's the biggest problem I see. I'd like to also want to know why we can't get an extension on the contract so that we can have more time to really perhaps talk to these. They have very busy lives. It's not going to be easy, but they're the ones who are going to have to live with this. This group here is going to live with it through their grandchildren for the most part, not their children. Just some minor things. The alternative school, when I was on the board, we didn't have very many kids. I think there were 10 kids or something on it. I don't know if we've exploded that and we have 50 now. We have to have a certain building for that. Will somebody tell me how many kids we have on the alternative school? Because that seems to be one of the drivers of this.
Right now in Clayton High School, we would have about 15 to 16 students.
Okay, so that doesn't seem like a lot. I like the idea, I know other people don't, of a public-private where half of the property or something gets developed for the school district. I'd like to see if we're going to have an auditorium that you have something that can be converted into a performing arts that Centene never delivered to the community, and I think would be a very helpful thing to have. And the other thing I want you to bear in mind is that developers frequently will say this will cost $60 million, but when it comes time to get it assessed, good law firms come in and say it's worth $30 million. So I'm not, you guys are on our side, not on the other side, but there are plenty of lawyers who do a very good job of lowering that amount significantly so that the numbers that you have up there, I mean, I have here, I'm in the real estate business. So I know that buildings sell for a certain price and they can be assessed for, they could sell for $90 million, be assessed for $70 million. So let's keep that in mind also, that these are just projections. And if you're going to do this, I'd like to see in some way that the developers cannot fight the assessment, that if we're going to say we're going to get a certain number of dollars, we continue to get them. Thank you.
All right, there. We are nearing the end of our time, but we're going to go ahead and take the remaining comments as long as that is okay with everyone. All right.
Hi, my name is Beth Rubin. I live on Cecil, and I have a couple of kids who went through the Clayton schools. But my question is basically, can you tell us what the process is going to be going forward? You mentioned your due diligence period ends on Monday. Like, what are the next steps? What's the board going to do after tonight?
So we are going to process everything that's been said tonight. We're going to meet and make a decision as to whether or not we want to move forward with the contract or not. And we will be doing that by the 22nd, because that's when our due diligence period expires.
Hi, I'm Bridget Dunlap, and since my comments about my experience of the opposition, I thought I'd address you all. I'm a member of one of the families that moved here for the school district, and my 2 6-year-olds have had, and I can't even talk about how amazing their experience at the Family Center was last year and now at the kindergarten at Glenridge. But I received the flyer from the opposition group, and I just want to gently raise that it seems like the opposition is mainly coming from people who don't have school-age kids and is led by people who, and the lead opposition, when they did have school-age kids, send them to Catholic school, to private school. I am a product of Catholic school, that's mine, but I chose something different for my children, and that's why I moved here. And I just want to question the assumption that we have adverse interests here. I think that families move here for the district, we spend money, we bring taxes, and we want a school board that is nimble, that can enter into deals, that can take advantage of opportunities. I'm all for transparency, but just like when a developer goes through a deal, like they can't share every step along the way, and I like that. That we have a plan, that they're looking to be innovative, and a plan where we can be involved with how it's developed, but take advantage of an opportunity. And
Let
us speak. Use the microphone.
I think in these kinds of situations, you have to have an open-ended plan, you have to be ready to move, but if we can just not assume that our interests are adverse and work together, maybe we can make some more progress here.
Hi, I'm Lavanya Mani. I'm a junior at Clayton High School. And, you know, I'm not an expert in real estate or school board policy, but when I heard about this transaction, I think my understanding is that this opportunity came up and we really wanted to jump on it while we still could. But the thing is, that made me wonder if we suddenly realized that we have the money to spend on this, and have we considered where else that money could go? Because, I mean, I've never bought a Caleres building, but I have bought other things, and sometimes when there's that urgency that you really want to buy something, that's when you realize you have that money in your pocket. And, you know, I'm a member of I'm on the Globe, I'm in the speech and debate team, and it makes me wonder what it would look like if instead of spending that much money on this building and then the inevitable additional costs of maintaining it, having staff cleaning it, if we could invest those directly into the teams. I heard a lot of talking about robotics. Someone mentioned renting out a space. I know Catalyst does that, and I was wondering, you know, what's the alternative? What would it look like if we were to invest this money directly into our teams, into our programs, instead of buying a whole new building?
Can you hear me? My name is Brad Bernstein. Thank you for doing this. I think part of being on the board is you want to engage community, and you've clearly checked that box on here. I grew up the Clayton School District. I went to Clayton. I was a solid C+ student. Yeah, I did okay. Went from Forest Park, Dumpsville to Washington Medical School, Navy, came back, and I was on the school board for 2 terms, for 2 9-year terms, I believe. I didn't come here with any perception of what we should do, and I appreciate everything that was being said. My comments or questions were more to the CFO. I mean, everyone has an interest, and I took a distinct interest in school finance. Maybe not like Steve Singer. I applaud. I really agreed with him and Clayco and Vic and other members of the school board here. It's that $20 million. Maybe it's 21 since Hush is here for numerous hours. I mean, whatever that number would be. So my understanding of school finance, and I think there was a tax levy in 2003. In 2009 and 10, there were bond issues which raised on $100 million. In 2019, 16 years after the first levy, there was another levy in 2019. I think it was 63 cents or so. Kim Hurst knows this very well. We told the public, look, this will generate so many dollars. If it generates more than that, there will be a rollback. We promised the public there would be a rollback on taxes if we exceeded the amount of revenue. Okay. I looked through board docs, and clearly in 2019, 2021, there was a rollback. I could find no evidence there was a rollback, and this is all in transparency. It was promised the public of the 15, 20 cents. And I, correct me if I'm wrong, Kim, I applaud everybody on the board, but she has a specific interest in this. My concern is that, was that money rolled back, or is that the money that's going to be used to fund this where's this $20 million coming from? And I mean to be nice. I don't want to be.
Oh, I understand. The voluntary rollback that was in place is still in place. That has not disappeared. The financing for this would come from borrowing initially on a lease purchase transaction, later to be rolled into a general obligation bond issue that would be voted on by the public.
Okay.
And it would replace expiring debt as a debt expires between now and March of 2029.
So that would require a vote of the public. And the school district is very good at that. I mean, you hire people, you push elections, but the money before that, is that what you would call certificates of participation?
Yes, sir.
Okay, so if anyone doesn't know that, the district can borrow money at a higher interest rate, 0.5% to 100 basis points more than a normal bond issue. Correct me if I'm wrong on that.
I think it's narrower than that.
Yeah, but it's in that. So it's a significantly higher interest rate you're paying. So what collateral are you using to borrow $20 million?
It would be this property.
It would be the building itself.
It would be the Caleres property.
Okay. No, thank you, because I wasn't really clear on that. Okay. My other questions have to do with respect to the budget in general. And it's not, you know, and I'm concerned about transparency on that. I spent a lot of time the past couple of days going over this, and that rollback, it clearly was not in any of the board docs or minutes that was transparent that 15 cents was rolled back. So I appreciate if that's true. I noticed in this year's budget, the expenses went up 6.5%. There was no explanation of why that occurred. The presentation that you made. Our per pupil expenditure was listed as $23,000 per student. Every other, Ladue, $13,000. The average amount per pupil expenditure throughout any other similar district of similar size is $10,000 less than us. So, I mean, I think the public, at least for me, just be transparent. Where is this coming from? Where is the money going? I think when I looked at the budget recently, I mean, I think Dr. Patel, all of a sudden, we spent $2 or $3 million on scoreboards, $2 million on library renovation, which was not in the initial budget. I spent a significant amount of time on this. So my concern is just transparent to the public over all of this, and that's the budget of the district itself. And I think that's an important component, I mean, for all of us to feel comfortable with. Good luck. Thank you. Hello? Mentioned that easement of 72 inches, whatever. Were we aware of that in our due diligence of the property, of this, whatever he was talking about, some sewer line?
Yes, sir.
So we knew
Yes.
that. Okay, good.
Utilities.
Utility, thank you.
It's Milan Cheda. I have a couple of students at Wydown, which is great education. Thank you, and thanks for being here. There was one question, somebody tapped me. Her question was, when you make a decision, how are you going to let people know? Just by email, or when you make a final decision, I think was her question.
Oh, yeah, I think that we will post something.
Okay.
First, we will obviously let Caleres know what our decision is, and then we will. Actually, I'm going to look to Dr. Patel and Luke to advise on communications.
And so the first thing, you're right, that we would have the conversation with Caleres, and what we would anticipate is sending out communication to the. What we would anticipate is sending out communication to the entire community about the decision that was made.
Okay, so my question, I heard Ms. Rubin's kind of possible vision. I'm not holding you to this. This could be really cool. I just wanted to hear what other people's potential visions for this would be.
Do you want the board? Do you want the individual?
Yeah. Whoever voted from the board. I just wanted to hear what your potential thoughts would be.
That's
not about the private. I know it could be a public-private, but just what are your thoughts?
Yeah. Okay, Chris, can we start at your end?
I'm really excited that some of the teachers were here tonight. I have 4 kids in the district. My oldest 2 are 18, and they've been here since they were 3. So in the in the family center, I really came onto this board with the understanding and knowledge that my kids' education is changing very rapidly, and therefore the school district has to change very rapidly along with it. Meaning, kids don't need the same things they needed 5 years ago, much less 25. And innovation is really an important part of education these days because of what, our children are going to have to adapt to over the course of their lives. It will be drastically different than what me or anybody else in this room has gone through in terms of their skill sets that they'll need for future jobs, et cetera. And that all trickles down in my eyes to what they can receive as an education here while they're here before they go out into, become whatever it is that they choose to become. And so for me, I know for sure that our facilities can be a part of making sure that these kids get the education that will serve them into their adulthood and into this very different age that we live in now, that our current facilities were not built for in terms of that type of education that they need. So that's where I'm at.
Thank you for asking. So I don't really have a specific idea what I would want there. But I mean, I thought about a bunch of stuff, you know, and you're going to hold me to this. So.
No, I won't. They might.
You're going to hold me to
They
it.
might.
But let me just say this. I mean, I thought about the football field being so far away from our campus. I think that's kind of odd. I know you all love that, but I think that's a little odd. I think having a building that would accommodate the idea for STEM, right? Give these kids tangible experiences in a space that they can actually get it done. Some kids, you know, they need opportunities just to be involved, and this is one way to do it right now. I also thought about just bigger classrooms. I think our classrooms are kind of small. I think kids don't really learn like that anymore. I'm not saying that we didn't do well, but you really want to find ways to really increase engagement from the children. And this is what I'm thinking, but this doesn't lead the discussion with the public to get feedback on how we're going to use that space. We're literally open to building something amazing. And you all keep throwing out John Burroughs and Country Day, and those are great schools. But you can look at Ladue. Ladue has an incredible school. They just updated everything. Kirkwood updated their schools. Lindbergh has a freaking geospatial center, it looks like, that they updated just recently. It's incredible over there. Webster Groves is also updating their schools. I'm thinking about, if we're going to continue to be number one and create a space that people want to come to and increase our enrollment, then we got to have a facility that's going to be incredible, that can compete. That's just bottom line. I know we don't like the idea of how we got to this point, but we're trying to work with the public. We're trying to be transparent. And like the person that spoke earlier was like, how is it that we're all like so suspicious of what we're trying to do? I mean, you all weren't even engaged prior to this moment. All of a sudden, you're highly suspicious. I don't mean to go off, and you can have your chance to speak in a minute. But I just want to make sure I'm a real person, and I want to let you know that it's just odd to me that all of a sudden you're so suspicious. So that's all I'm saying. So I just want to make sure I put that out there. But that's my idea, and we want your feedback, and we want to have an incredible space.
Yeah. Ms. C, what kinds of, just thoughts could potentially be here?
So I've had several thoughts, and we've had several discussions about potential ideas. And I will say, since the very beginning of our talks here, the most important thing and main thing that we have said from the beginning and continue to say, that whatever we envision building there would be able to be used by the entire community. That's very important to us. We've been saying that from the beginning. So I want to make that very clear. We remember the plans that were supposed to be built at the ice rink for a multi-use facility for the whole community. We would love to have that be used by our students and the greater community. So I want to say that. I'd also like to say that because we don't have concrete plans for the space, the reason we don't have concrete plans for the space is because our plan includes that after this process, if we acquire the property, to solicit community feedback on what everyone would like to see there. After we do our long-range facility study and we see really what our students need, we want community input. So that's why we don't have concrete ideas. But I can assure you that every decision we make as a school board, whether it be on policies or curriculum or even this real estate transaction, our current and future students' best interests are at the forefront of every one of those decisions, along with gaining community support. So I can't give you something specific, but like someone mentioned, a performing arts center, auditorium, we have always talked about building something that would benefit the entire community along with the city's support.
And I guess just Dr. Patel, just some potential ideas.
I would piggyback on what Stacy just said. One of the main things I always felt would be amazing for the school district is having a venue where you can hold events from elementary school to middle school events to high school events, and most importantly, even for the community.
Anyone else? Yeah.
Sure. Thanks, Brad, for putting me on the spot. And so I'll speak to why I voted on this from a fiduciary responsibility standpoint, since I am the treasurer of the board. So I respectfully would submit that there is confidentiality clauses when you're in good faith negotiations with a counterparty. And those, haven't been trying to hide the ball on anything. I see you shaking your head at me, but I'm telling you openly and honestly that we were subject to confidentiality clauses under the LOI that we were engaged with Caleres.
You added those in.
We did not.
You agreed to keep it away from us. Don't do something wrong and then blame it on.
So I will also say that we are not under contract yet. And as it was said, when there is an opportunity that presents itself, it's our responsibility as school board members to evaluate the opportunity to see if it is something that we would wish to pursue. In the evaluation of this opportunity, we have not put any meaningful district finances at risk. We have the opportunity to collect every single dollar of the earnest money that is out there if we decide not to move forward with this by the deadline. I think that is an important point that maybe hasn't been made and you haven't heard. The other thing that I would say is there are lots of things that we could do with this property. There's a facilities plan from 2008 that's 123 pages long. Some of these things in this plan have been done, some of these things have not been done. Part of updating the facilities plan is to look at the age of the facilities across the district. All of the elementary school buildings, the family center, Gay Field, as Jason has pointed out, the high school, and then decide with community input what we wish to do and what is practical to do. Do we have that plan yet? No. Would this property give us additional optionality to execute that plan? Possibly.
Are we going to have a football field there, or are we going to have a commercial there? Is it going to be tax paid, or is it going to be tax exempt?
I think I've answered your question, sir, about what we... Jason is one member of the board. There are 7 of us, all with an equal vote. And the community input, as we've stated repeatedly, is critical to this. The student input, what could we do with the $20 million instead? It's critical to the consideration in the long term.
I just want to thank you, Kim. I just want to say one thing. When Kim stated that it was not under contract, it is under contract. We are still in our due diligence period, so I just want to make sure that I clarify that to everybody, that we are under contract, but we are still within our due diligence period, which expires on January the 22nd. Go ahead, Jason.
Just to put the final note here, I mean, I was happy to vote for this when we did vote for it, for all the reasons that Kim said and others down the line. My personal preference, which again, I'm just one of 7, but I'd love to see us build a world-class, state-of-the-art performing arts facility in line sort of like with what Centene had in mind that could benefit the entire community in addition to our students.
Okay. I think that's everybody. Thank you to my board members for answering the question and putting yourself out there. I appreciate it. Go ahead. I know you've been waiting.
Hi, my name's
Hi.
Paul Rapinati, and we've been residents since '92, and both of our kids went through school here. I served on the Why Down Tomorrow committee, and so there were a group of Clayton residents, as well as we actually had kind of the construction engineer that had been hired and the architects to actually redo this entire facility. And we had public hearings like once a month for several months, and really kind of drill down like the cost-benefit analysis of actually like knocking down a building we had versus just building something new. And I think the results of all the kids that had come through Wyown all those years and went to the high school all had done very well. But really the building was a little bit dated. And I think one of the main reasons was really even attracting like really good teachers. Because the teachers themselves, I mean, I remember asking one teacher that I knew, and the teachers actually had to use the same bathroom as the students. And, you know, it was like just very uncomfortable for them. I mean, it sounds small, but this was like actually like an WashU lawyer that had successful practice and taught English in the middle school. So, you know, a good teacher. I think in general, Clayton spends a lot of money for our students. We spend more per student than any other district. We do have a smaller district. I think the school district does, generally speaking, have a lot of money here. I mean, you're not really hurting for things. There's lots of assistance. There's lots of equipment. I know in the Why Down Tomorrow committee, it was a situation where they said your property taxes won't go up. And it was the situation, and yeah, John, I'm not sure. We basically had a series of like muni bonds that were maturing. So what they did is by issuing new ones, it just kept that cash flow, that tax stream going forward. In theory, if we never built this building, our taxes all would have gone down because we wouldn't have paid that anymore. I'm not saying that that's like actually a lot of school districts kind of do that all the time. But I think even though like somebody mentioned when we did do the Why Down Tomorrow committee, it was difficult given the economy, but I think just the openness is something that helped make it go. And I think we actually went and visited like New City School. They had all these like open air classrooms. You know, they had done a lot of like kind of platinum LEED certified things, and it really helped. And it'd be interesting how much over the years, looking over the next 10 years of our kids received a better education. You know, some of these things that you measure. Don Senti once told me that the success for student outcomes is the educational level of the mother and the median family income. And if you look at Clayton, we have, I think, between 800 and 1,000 Washington University families in our community, and all these people are highly educated. And a lot of these kids really drive our curriculum. That's why. I mean, I know we say we have a world-class school district, and we really do, but what we really kind of do have is like a world-class demographic, and that helps really drive outcomes. One last thing. They didn't, unfortunately, have a lot of STEM when my kids were here, and actually both of them are like computer engineers working for Amazon out in California, so they finally got there. But I'm looking at college really failing Middle East students. Kids go to college, now it's more experiential. I live right across the street from WashU on Forsyth. They built like incredible dorms, spent all this money. Kids are graduating in majors really where they don't have that much opportunity with lots of student debt. So thinking beyond the horizon, yeah, school does need to change, but maybe there's just other ways that could be done. So anyways, but again, I also want to thank you. I thought about running for the school board 20 years ago, and it was like way too much work. So I want to really thank all of you for doing this. Just thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you. One of the things that several people have brought up tonight that I do agree with is that what makes us Clayton is not our facilities. It's our community, and it's our students that come to Clayton, and it's our teachers, and it's our admin. And Dr. Patel and I, we actually had this conversation a couple days ago. And I think I said to her, you know, our students could thrive on a parking lot. I mean, we could put them anywhere and our students are going to be great, and it's because of our community that we live in, and it's because of the parents, and it's because of the teachers. So, you know, while I just want us to keep all of that in mind as we're thinking about things, and while we do want to have world-class facilities and you know, I think that we will continue to deliberate about how we make that happen. But I think there's a lot of ways to get there too. And so, and a big part of it is our teachers, it's our students, and it's, you know, Dr. Patel and the parents. So I just, a couple of you have brought that up, and I just wanted to let you guys know that I definitely agree with that line of comments. Go ahead.
Good afternoon. My name is Linda Duke. I've been here for 5 years. Mr. Wilson, I'm going to direct this to you. I am now interested because I now know about this. I did not know about this before. That's why I care now. And I would have cared months ago if you all had deigned to tell us about it. I have been in higher education since last century. I care deeply about education, and I can guarantee you that everybody in this room cares about educating our children. No one here is arguing that we should not invest in our children. We are arguing because of the process that you have put in place deliberately. We care deeply about our children and our community, and we care about how we go about doing things. I want to ask each of you, can you vote on Monday in good conscience about going forward with this project, given what you've heard tonight? That is a question for each of you.
You're asking us, can we vote for it on Monday in good conscience?
In good conscience.
No, I'm not.
I'll answer. Yeah, I know. I'm not going to say how I'm going to vote, but I'm going to, as I said in my opening remarks, you know, we are in our due diligence period, and it is, you know, the reason that we're having this forum tonight is because we want your input. And so I certainly plan on taking into consideration everybody's input that's taken their time out of their busy schedules to come here and voice their opinion. That's why we're here tonight. I can't, you know, speak for the rest of the board, but you know, part of our due diligence is gauging community support and gauging the city's support. So I think that's all part of the process. And while I can't tell you how I'm going to vote, I you know, appreciate everybody coming here tonight, and I'm certainly planning on, you know, unpacking it all with the board as we convene.
Could I have my microphone back on? So part of the reason we're here is to learn, and we have learned a lot. We've learned that $21 million is the cost to purchase, and then we've learned that it's millions and millions and millions more to do anything at all. So what's the plan for that? When you talk about what the vision is, there is no clear vision. It doesn't mean there couldn't be, but by talking to us, I think that we can come up with a good vision, we could come up with a good plan, we could decide whether or not we want to invest this much money and the risks involved. There are people in this community who know about this and need to be part of the conversation. My last question is, I haven't been following this because I just learned about it, but somebody brought up that somebody had to recuse themselves from the conversation. Did they do that? At what point did they do that? Was it before conversations happened that they should or should not have been a part of?
Oh, yeah, I mean, so Gary Pearson is our secretary, and he recused himself from the very beginning of this. Before I proceeded, I made sure that my husband wasn't, and his company wasn't interested in pursuing this property. So I think, you know, that we followed protocol with respect to what you're asking.
Okay, so I would just very much ask that you all put a pause on this. Clearly, the facility is not going anywhere based on what people are saying. If you care about the community and what you're hearing tonight, please put a pause on this.
Okay.
Hi, I'm Erin Lindenbringer. I live here in this neighborhood and have a son at Whiteown, daughter at the high school. And I just want to say thank you again for the opportunity tonight. It's been, I came here, like many of you, not having a lot of details, but being very interested and open-minded as a parent, resident, etc. And I really appreciate hearing all the voices that have come forth today, especially from our teachers. And I think the thing that we haven't heard as much tonight, we've heard a lot about the concerns around the communication and just the process of how we got to tonight. I think something that maybe is missing more generally in our society right now is some trust in each other to make decisions for our community that are really trying to benefit everyone. So I just want to say that I appreciate this opportunity. I appreciate the opportunity to continue this conversation and continue building that trust. And I also really look forward to hearing more from everybody once we've had our chance to get our minds around what the opportunities are here for our students, for our faculty, for our community, to see if this is an opportunity to really move us forward. And I understand the frustrations with not having plans all lined up in stone right now that we can pick apart and analyze in great detail. But as someone who does a lot of work with communities to develop interventions for improvements in health, I understand that it's really important to start with things like this. And I know folks would have wished this could have happened 30 days ago, 60 days ago, whatever. But it's happening now, and I see this as the beginning, I hope, and not the end. So, sorry, I hope, don't take up too much more time, but thank you.
Thank you, Erin. Hi.
My name is Judd Calkins, and I've got a second grader at Glenridge School. And we live outside the district, but we have real estate in the district. It's been hard to understand what some of the people, whether they're for or against, from the comments they've meandered. I want to commend this board for seizing an opportunity, and I think the most important comments made here tonight have been by the individual with the robotics program. And I think the second most important points that have been made is that facilities are important. John Burroughs School, MICDS. I went to John Burroughs School and I've watched the facilities there expand. I see the need for additional facilities here. I couldn't be more impressed with what's happening with my daughter in the second grade, and I hope that you'll use the period ahead to flesh out what you want to do with it. An empowerment zone doesn't tell us much, but I think you all recognize the need for more space, and I commend you, and I want you to use the period of time for that and go forward. If in your wisdom it's something you should do. Your superintendent came over to our school, and I was able to say namaste to her outside the school on a cold morning, and thank you for what you're doing, and thanks for seizing the opportunity.
Okay, so I think everybody, I hope everybody that has wanted to speak has had the opportunity to speak. Again, I really appreciate everybody's input. It's we value the community's input, and we will be taking all of your comments into consideration as we move forward. Stay warm, be safe getting home, and send us an email if you have further questions. Thank you.